Buenos días, bienvenidos.
Good morning. Welcome everyone and internet navigators and representatives of the civil society in Cuba. The Cuban Association of the United Nations has organized the celebration of this online forum to greet the high-level meeting of the United Nations General Assembly on nuclear disarmament that will be held on September 26. This is the first top-level meeting because this is also the first time that the United Nations organization called for this kind of meeting to that high level. The General Assembly will allow that leaders of the whole world make some announcements about this topic in the occasion of that meeting, fulfilling the aspirations of the Millennium Summit celebrated in the year 2000. The Cuban Association of the United Nations has invited some activists of different international and national organizations located in our country, as well as some academics, to try to deal with this complicated issue related to the nuclear weapons, which is one of the main challenges of humanity faced today by survival, to speak about nuclear weapons and mass extermination from different points of view. This initiative is also an opportunity that all organizations, civil society should not miss and should take advantage of this opportunity to claim for the total elimination and prohibition of nuclear weapons. Will be quite important to achieve concrete results, establishing a schedule that allowed in a process the elimination of nuclear weapons at least by the year 2025. Another initiative like negotiation of a treaty on nuclear disarmament are some of the expectations on which world leaders will be making some statements about. We would like to welcome the members of our panel, and we would like all of you to participate in this forum because the initiative, your proposals, your opinions are very important in all parts of the world. Thank you very much.
Buenos días. Hablo en
Good morning. I speak on behalf of the World Peace Council and the Cuban Movement for Peace regarding a topic of paramount importance for life in our planet: the existence of weapons of mass destruction and specifically nuclear weapons. At the end of the Second World War, this disaster that cost humanity over 28 million lives and countless losses in its heritage, when it was evident the surrender of Japan, the United States launched without justification the atomic bomb on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That horrendous genocide left 280,000 deaths and dozens of thousands of survivors that were suffering the side effects of this explosion. After considering the effects of the nuclear weapon, it led that women and men from the entire world, even surpassing ideological, political, religious, racial, cultural, and sex differences, joined their voices to oppose this perspective, willing to prevent the emergence of a new world war. In this context, between 1948 and 1950, the First and Second World Congress of Peace Defenders took place. Peace defenders in the world, since the very beginning, we continue with their action to ban atomic weapons, and we, of course, would like to favor the general and controlled reduction of weaponry of all nature. This increase is increasing the danger of war that is imposed to people, is imposing to people the greatest sacrifices as well as the ones related to the development of humanity. This important movement is known as the World Peace Council. The World Peace Council that includes the Cuban movement has provided a follow-up and has issued statements against nuclear threats, demanding that the states undertake and materialize the fight against the development and use of weapons of mass destruction, as well as its banning. And this is a key element when it comes to the global struggle for peace. In the political statement of the Assembly of the World Peace Council that took place in July 2012 in Kathmandu, Nepal, it was agreed to strengthen peace organizations worldwide in the face of the increase of conflicts in most continents, some of them with possibilities to use nuclear weapons, mostly by the United States. The World Peace Council has endorsed these and has favored several initiatives such as workshops, educational actions, and the wide dissemination of dangers and threats for human life posed by nuclear weapons. Cuba's proposal on behalf of the non-aligned countries to host a high-level meeting at the General Assembly of the United Nations that will take place in the upcoming 26th of September will be an special opportunity supported by the World Peace Movement, and of course we favor this. This will enable us to evaluate and to adopt agreements for a timetable and to favor the gradual reduction process of nuclear weapons for its total elimination and its banning. That will be all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone in this room. For academics and professors, the importance of the call of this high-level meeting of the United Nations on nuclear disarmament lies in the fact that the international security is threatened by the existence of nuclear weapons, and this meeting is a contribution in this complex scenario. Its total elimination and banning is a question of survival for mankind. In the political thought of Fidel Castro, rules on nuclear disarmament, he, the leader of Cuba, in his thinking about nuclear disarmament, we find an important alert to mankind for the terrible threat that represents the existence of the nuclear weapons. So, together with the climate change, endangers the survival of humankind. If those huge nuclear arsenals are not destroyed in the hands of the main world powers, the international security and the existence of mankind will be in real danger. The international community must be aware of the global effects of any accidental or intentional nuclear detonation. The Cuban society gives important special priority to nuclear disarmament and defends the need to adopt an international tool, which is juridical banning that prohibits nuclear weapons. We call the Cuban authorities to continue with all the necessary efforts together with the non-aligned countries so that this meeting might be a step forward in the necessary path towards nuclear disarmament. Cuba encourages all the states to participate at the highest possible level in this meeting. From this forum, we make a call to academicians and all civil society in general to perform all activities in their hands so that in their countries they attend and support this high-level meeting. The disarmament conference will negotiate a treaty that eliminates and prohibits nuclear weapons, a treaty that bans the weapons carrier in the outside space, a treaty that gives guarantees for the states that Cuba are not having nuclear weapons, and also a treaty that prohibits the feasible production of material of feasible production and the fabrication of nuclear weapons. I join to those who to Cuba that defends and has reiterated its position against the use and threat of nuclear weapons. That is a violation of the international right as well as the international humanitarian right and the United Nations Charter. Another problem linked to this situation are the excessive expenditures for the development and perfecting of nuclear weapons. The trends of nuclear weapons is exacerbating as well the production of nuclear weapons, and we need a change of mind in international policy since nuclear weapons are against the international safety. Military expenditures, which are so excessive, including the military expenditures for perfecting the nuclear weapons that have reduced the available resources for social development. So we can say as well that the economic and financial crisis of capitalism brings about more illiteracy, hunger, and the excessive military expenditures partner to dedicate those resources to promote development in the third world and to face the threat of the ecological destruction of this planet. The states might prioritize reduction of military expenditures and the use of resources to maintain nuclear arsenals for development, considering the connection between disarmament and development. Thank you very much.
Well, I will participate in this forum on behalf of the Cuban Medical Committee for the Prevention of Nuclear War. This is a branch office of the World Organization. Specifically, we will refer to the consequences for human health caused by nuclear weapons. Since the genocides of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the nuclear arms race has posed for humanity a continuous chain of events and acts that are insane, that are unjustified. Mostly different problems caused for human health, and it has become evident in all aspects related to nuclear war. We're talking about nuclear production, nuclear tests, nuclear accidents that have taken place throughout these years, and even the biological experiments conducted with radioactive substances on human beings. Regarding nuclear production, since 1945, according to some statistics, there have been around 150 nuclear heads, 55% of them produced by the US and the ex-USSR, and 2% by the rest of the so-called nuclear states. Now, there are some data to illustrate how dangerous this is and the horrible effects of the arms race worldwide. In the United States, in the nuclear plant of Hanford, close to 10 million people have been exposed to emissions, air radioactive emissions all through the Columbia River. The lung cancer rate among the uranium miners in the United States is 5 times higher than the national rate in that country. In the Sellafield nuclear plant in the United Kingdom, according to a study conducted by our organization in 1986, we were able to prove very clearly the direct relation between the radiation doses received by its workers and the mortality rate of the same workers due to bladder cancer, multiple myeloma, lymphatic tumors, and bone cancer. The most horrible issue that came out of this research, we got it 3 years later, when the sons and daughters of these workers, it was proven that they were 7 or 8 times more likely to suffer from leukemia if in a previous time to their procreation their parents had received at least 10 remos of radiation. In Russia, the workers of the Mayak nuclear plant, that is the most important in that country, have been exposed to chronic radiation doses. And we're talking about the workers and other people over 100 to 1,000 times higher than other workers in similar rates in other countries. According to some epidemiological studies conducted on the uranium mines in the US, France, Australia, Czechoslovakia, and Canada, it has shown an increase of deaths caused by lung cancer due to the exposure to radium. Now, regarding nuclear tests, up to 1998, in the world, 2,052 nuclear tests have been conducted. You recall the atolls in the Pacific. The rhythm of these tests was 1 after 9 days. So you might imagine this frequency between 1945 and 1980. The total capacity used in these nuclear tests reached 440 megatons. What does it mean, these 440 megatons? Equal to 30,000 nuclear explosions like the one in Hiroshima, if they had taken place in that period every 11 hours constantly. And due to nuclear accidents, we know that there have been nuclear accidents in planes and submarines, in nuclear fuel deposits, in random missiles during different nuclear tests, etc. And we have been that many people have been wounded and have been burned as a result of this. Lastly, I wanted to share with you that it's very hard to say, and we were able to see this in some of our works, experiments with nuclear substances in human beings. Between 1944 and 1974, the U.S. government favored around 4,000 experiments with human beings. They conducted this with uranium, plutonium, with polonium, and there were exposures to radioisotopes, exposure to nuclear tests, even by the members of the armed forces of that country, and release of radiation into the environment intentionally. Among them, just to mention some of them, because we are running out of time, we recall the one of the famous doctor, Eugene Seeger, and he conducted experiments on 88 patients with total radiation, and patients with tumors that could not be operated, but most of them were Afro-American citizens. In 1949, the Quaker Oats Company and the National Institute of Health, they conducted experiments with radioactive substances in food products to corroborate the absorption of iron and calcium by the body. We have to recall the use of children with mental disorders of the so-called Fernal School that took place in several times. Also, inmates were used. We recall the cases of Oregon and Washington, and they were paid $600 to allow them to be irradiated with 600 round. That's to say 100 times the annual dose, but they were not warned about the possibility that they had to suffer from cancer, testicle cancer. And now there is a nuclear group with megatons of nuclear warheads that would cause the death of millions of people immediately without any possibility to receive medical treatment or any other kind of assistance. Also, it is extremely important to stress that the destruction of all elements that are part of this nuclear devastating force, the expansive wave, the thermal radiation, the ionizing radiation, and so on and so forth. Afterwards, we would have the so-called nuclear winter, where there wouldn't be any possibility of survival for any living organisms in the planet. We would like to conclude by saying, as we wrote in a book, that unfortunately the atom was put in the hands of the devil, and what we have to do is to take this atom away from the devil's hands, and actually we have to construct peace that humanity deserves. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias a nuestros.
Thank you very much to the members of this panel. Nuclear disarmament, though, has many people and organizations all over the world that support nuclear disarmament. Paradoxically, in practical terms, we do not have any initiative, any concrete initiative that confirms the elimination and prohibition of nuclear weapons. Meanwhile, humanity is just under great risk to be annihilated, given the existence of more than 19,000 nuclear weapons, out of which 4,400 are in operation and 2,000 are ready to be used immediately, according to the information we have received so far. So it was mentioned before by Dr. Pasos, only the use of an explosion of 100 warheads will be fatal results for the mankind existence. This is an immoral situation and cannot be justified under any concept or safety doctrine. Nuclear disarmament cannot be anymore neglected and cannot be opposed. Highest priority might be given for society and world leaders to nuclear disarmament to be completed and verified. The only real effective way to guarantee that mankind will not ever again be under the great impact of nuclear weapons is their prohibition and total elimination. It's unacceptable that the present world is spending more means and funds to promote and perform wars than in promoting development. In the last 10 years, military expenditures have increased in more than 49%, which represent astronomical figures of more than $1.74 billion. Good part of that funds is to make endless these dead weapons. From the Cuban Society of the United Nations, from the Cuban civil society, we request all goodwill men and women all over the world to join our initiative and efforts in the prohibition and elimination of these nuclear weapons and make this new opportunity offered by the General Assembly of the United Nations in the high-level meeting that is going to be celebrated in a few days from now on September 26 will be a way to achieve a concrete step toward the elimination of that danger, that risk that is affecting humanity today. I mean, mass extermination weapons, and particularly nuclear weapons. We would like to invite all the internauts which are in this room and in the ether to continue with this debate that will lead us to new initiatives and to create in the world public opinion the need to pay special attention to this relevant topic. Thank you very much.